guys. So I'm either in surgery or coming out of surgery or about to go into surgery. So hopefully everything is going well for you guys, and hopefully it's all going to be going well for me. We really have a lot to do this 9 weeks. This 9 weeks is only 8 weeks, and I feel the pressure because once we got to move on, we got to move on. So for that reason, I'm going to go ahead and do this lesson on video, and Miss Brooks, sorry, is going to pause it and have you guys answer questions and all that other good stuff, and kind of do the lesson that way. One thing I am going to say, it's going to be 3 strikes, you're out. So my intention is for you guys to be able to work in groups of 2 to 3, which will let my tables of 6 become either groups of 2 or groups of 3, and my tables of 4 can be groups of 2, but it's got to be with whoever's at your group. There's no going to be getting around. So my intention is to let you guys go ahead and work on something together. Here's the deal though. 3 strikes, you're out. And Miss Brooks, please feel free to enforce this rule. If you're talking when I'm talking, I don't care if it's video of me talking, that's 1 strike, right? If you are horsing around or playing around, or when you get to do your work and you get to do the short stories and you're in your group of 2 and really to like a whole group of 6 and you see across talking, I'm going to have Miss Brooks counts that as a strike. Once you guys as a class hit 3 strikes, no group work. It'll be silence. So please make sure that you're doing what you need to be doing now and that you are listening and paying attention, because obviously this is valuable. What I'm about to teach you today is something that's going to go on for the entire year. So let's just revisit contrast and contradictions. So go ahead and flip to the chart of the signposts and look at your contrasts and contradictions. And we should have already annotated on that, right? When a character behaves or acts in a way that's reacts in a way or feels a certain way or does a certain thing that seems that a character, you always ask yourself, why does the character do that? And that helps us analyze a whole bunch of different things, right? Character motivation for sure, but we start to see character traits. We start to see make predictions about what's going to happen. So contrast and contradictions, we're keeping it. So we're going to be adding. And so I want you to find the part where it says words of the wiser. It may or may not be the second one down. I don't have the handout in front of me. But words of the wiser is when a character who's wiser, usually they're older, but not always, right? Like in The Giver, Jonas is wiser than his peers. And he totally has like the words of the wiser moment. So usually they're older, but not always. Like Lord of the Flies, that you guys are going to read in high school, which is about these kids that get abandoned on this island and they start to go like crazy and like kill each other. It's like realistic. It's not like Hunger Games. Like it was pretty much to point out how terrible the World War was by having these kids get stranded on this island during the World War. But anyway, so in there's going to be a character, Simon, who he's going to have those words of the wiser. And if you guys you remember, right, How to Read Literature Like a Professor, How to Read Literature Like a Professor also talks about, right, some of those wisdom, the characters that have seen something and they come back to tell the people. So in pieces of literature, we often have characters who are imparting very wise words. And me personally, I always feel like it's the author pretty much becoming a character and kind of trying to talk to us as the readers. So as you are highlighting or annotating on your little signpost sheet, go ahead and put down what you think are, underline or highlight the keywords of what word or the wiser is. And then what is that question that we ask ourselves? Whenever we see a character, usually pull aside another character and impart some kind of knowledge. We're supposed to ask ourselves, what's the life lesson and how might it affect the character? So those are the 2-part question, right? 2-part question that you're going to ask yourself. So this is what I want us to do. I want us to actually re-enter Fish Cheeks. So go ahead and go back to Fish Cheeks. You want to keep your finger, right, on the words of the wiser. But go ahead and re-enter Fish Cheeks. I'll try to make sure I put my poster up on the wall, but I might not remember. So here we go. For Fish Cheeks, I want you to find the words of the wiser. I want you to underline or highlight them. Now, you're going to want to probably underline or highlight more than one sentence, but what I'm going to challenge you guys to do is find the best one sentence in Amy Tan's Fish Cheeks. So Miss Brooks, if you go ahead and pause it now and go ahead and have everybody underline or highlight the words of the wiser. And I suggest using a different color than you did for contrast and contradictions. So if you used yellow for contrast and contradictions, use pink for words of the wiser. If you underlined for contrast and contradictions, circle for words of the wiser. Something to show that you're doing something different. So go ahead and do that now. The sentence I felt that was most powerful, most like the words of the wiser, was the part where she says, "Your only shame is to have shame." You can be American on the outside, but you must be Chinese on the inside. That is a great line, and like totally, if I was ever analyzing the short story, there's no way to really analyze it without that line. But I feel that when the mom says, "Your only shame is to have shame," that was truly the wisest words if you think about it, right? Because wisdom is something that should carry on with other situations. And I feel like that one was the most universal of the words. So here's the deal. It's at the end of the story. And the question you're supposed to ask is, what's the life lesson and how might it affect the character? And I know what you're thinking. Some of you is like, well, there's only one paragraph left and it never says how it affects the character. Except Amy Tan's not just a character. She's a real person, and this really happened to her. So what I want you guys to do out into the margin of Words of the Wiser is put down how you think it actually affected Amy Tan, the author. And then Miss Brooks is going to have it where you guys share. Remember, there's a lot of different really good answers. So, you know, as long as you're not repeating each other, you can share, multiple people can share what they think. So try to write that answer to that question out into the margin of your Words of the Wiser now. Okay, I'm sure you guys came up with some really good stuff. I always feel like your only shame is to have shame, and I'm sure some of you guys either thought this or shared it with us. And how did that affect Amy Tan? I think it's why Amy Tan wrote the story. I think it's actually author's purpose behind writing this narrative. I think she feels really bad for how ignorant she was as a little teenage girl who she was ashamed of her own self. And I think it's kind of a way of her trying to make up for what she did by maybe trying to teach us lessons. And really not us so much as you guys, people your age, lessons of not being ashamed of who you are. So now we're going to do Powder by Tobias Wolff. So Powder should be coming out to you. Sorry, I'm just going to change it on my computer so that way it doesn't overheat because the little fan is blocked. And I'm on my bed. Ooh, this is the color of my room. It's pretty. Okay, so Powder should be coming around to you very soon. Now, here's the deal. You will want to read ahead. I know we've talked about this. This is the last time I'm going to make you do it without being able to just read quickly. It's going to be, honestly, every paragraph. I know some of you guys are looking at these paragraphs and you're like, I just want to read ahead and then I'll come back and do it. Don't do that. There's a very specific reason why I don't want you to do it for Powder. Okay? So here's the deal. You're going to find a contrast and contradiction for each paragraph. There are two sections in this short story that if you are really actively reading, you can figure something out. Something out that is never clearly stated. High inferencing. Do the contrasts and contradictions. If you come across a paragraph in which there's like 5 contrasts and contradictions, try to suss that out. Okay? We're going to see who can figure it out and who cannot figure it out. And it becomes very important because you guys are going to have a quiz on Powder and the question's going to be on the quiz. So you have to be a really active reader. And if there's anybody that's new to the class today, you need to also make sure you're doing this for Fish Cheeks and someone needs to help that person catch up because the quiz is going to also have some questions on Fish Cheeks. Okay? So here's what you're going to do. Every paragraph, there's contrasts and contradictions. Minus, I think it's at the end of page 1, but I might be forgetting. It's where the dad talks to the state trooper. It's about this long, and it's just a bunch of dialogue. Like, it doesn't go on like multiple sentences. You can just chunk all that together and figure out one word of the wiser. It's not this big, right? It's like this big. It's like maybe 7 lines of dialogue, or 7 paragraphs, really, technically, of dialogue. So you can chunk those together. But every other one, I'm looking for 1 or more. Okay, there's a lot in there. I'm also looking for you to do words of the wiser. So this is what I want you to do. I want you to somehow code words of the wiser differently. So if that means you're circling, or that means you're using a different color, or whatever it might be for your annotation style that doesn't disturb you, you're going to do words of the wiser. So here's what we're going to do. Read the first paragraph, underline what you think or highlight what you think is the contrast and contradiction. Off to the side, write down why you think the character is saying or doing that thing. Do that for the next paragraph, next paragraph, next paragraph, next paragraph, all keeping in mind, right, that there's going to be the words of the wiser. So that's what you guys are going to do. Now, before we do that, here comes the next part of the lesson. Okay, we talked about what titles are. So I'm going to go ahead and let you guys shout out. So when I go like this, just shout out. I know you're shouting at a screen, but Miss Brooks will hear you, and so she can make sure that you guys are on par and you don't need to redo this section. So here's the deal. We know in Fish Cheeks, right? If you guys remember, we talked about titles. Titles are either this or they're connected to this. So titles are either what or what? Yay! We all hopefully said they're either symbols or connected to a theme. And we were able to figure out, right, what Fish Cheeks was the symbol of, right? Don't say it out loud, you know, because we have to turn those things in. Okay, so second thing to know about titles is that when they are objects, you should think about them in a sensory way. So look at powder. Everybody should have powder. If not, this video should get paused and they should get passed out. So here we have powder. So powder. Is it going to be a symbol, or is it going to be connected to the theme? Probably a symbol, right? Because you can like see powder and it's an object, and symbols are objects, right, that represent an idea. So it's probably going to be a symbol, but this is what else I want us to do with it. I want you to write down 3 connotative associations with the word powder. So what that means is I want you guys to use your imagination. I want you to cup your hands like this. Come on, do it. Some of you guys are like, come on, like I'm not even able to see you. You just cup your hands like this. Okay. This is where it's really important that we use multiple parts of our brain, and that's why we're doing this, okay? Because if I just talk to you and it's just all up here, you're not using all the parts of your brain you should be using. So I want you to cup your hands, and I want you to look in your hands, and I want you to imagine that it's filled with powder. Whatever powder you're picking, right? Okay, mine's baby powder. Okay, and I want you to imagine you have this powder cupped in your hands, and I want you to think about what it feels like, and how it moves, and anything else that you can associate with it. See? Connotative association. So we're looking at the word, right? And we're looking at it as if we had a bunch of powder in our hands. We can mush it around. We can do whatever we want with that powder. Okay, here we go. What I want you guys to do, raise your hands, and there's lots of really good answers, is I want you to go ahead and share what were some of the words that came to you while you were imagining this powder in your hand. So go ahead and pause it and share. Okay, so hopefully you guys heard a lot of really good ones. I always think about how it's like it's loose and it sifts and it can easily fall through your fingers. You guys probably came up with even better things that I haven't thought about. What I want you to do is I want you to write down 3 things next to that title that are connotative associations. It could be the 3 you first came up with, or maybe you heard someone say something that you thought was pretty brilliant and you want to go ahead and use those. But 3 things with powder. So go ahead and write down those things now. Okay, now in your groups of 2 to 3, you cannot get up and move. You're going to stay at your desks. Okay, so if you're in a group of 6, but really there's 5 people, make a group of 3 and then a group of 2. Do not make this a weird social anxiety, social experiment thing. Okay, like seriously, like you need to have groups of 2 or 3. It's not that big of a deal. Okay. The reason why we want to have more than one person and why I don't want you to do it completely independently is because I want you to hear what other people have to say, and I want you guys to figure out the trick. So that way you can get the answer correct on your essay. I mean on your quiz, sorry. So go ahead, you're gonna do Word to the Wiser 1, and you're gonna do contrasts and contradictions for each paragraph. So it's about 20 to 30 paragraphs, maybe 20 to 30 contrasts and contradictions. Putting stuff out to the side. Ms. Brooks, if you wouldn't mind having a whole class model of this, that could be great. I know that you haven't seen contrast and contradictions. You could even get a student up at the desk to turn on the Elmo and do it this way. Have it where it is, okay, read the first paragraph, underline the contrast and contradiction you see, and put down why, and then go and have the class share. So you don't have to use that document camera if you don't want to, but I would at least have us all share just whole class real quick, just the first couple of paragraphs, so you guys can see the varied responses of your peers. Because we shouldn't all be putting down the exact same things. Because we're analyzing different things. Some of you guys are going to hit on a character trait, when other you guys will hit on a character motivation. Other of you will hit on a prediction. So it shouldn't all be the same. So I want us to just kind of hear the varied things. So that's what we're going to do for powder. Okay, before you go, sorry, Viva is sad, but before you go, don't forget you have to turn in your summer reading homework to turnitin.com. You can go on Edmodo. Edmodo has the codes and the directions for turnitin.com. I think I posted it on like Saturday or Friday, so you can just go back in time and look around the 22nd or the 23rd. That is your homework for tonight. Whatever you do not finish on powder, I'm going to give you guys... I'll leave it up to Miss Brooks, but I want to say it's something around 15 minutes tomorrow for you guys to finish. And then you guys will definitely have a quiz over powder tomorrow. It's okay. It's okay. She fell and hit her head, so she's sad. But don't forget, you do have that homework. Okay, so it's really, really important that you turn that guy in. Follow the directions that I presented to you for turnitin.com. If you have problems, use turnitin.com's help feature. And you should be fine. Okay? Alright? Say bye-bye. Say bye-bye. Oh, wait, bye-bye. Bye-bye. Yeah.